Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to our What's Up Wednesday webinar, Dementia-Friendly Community Collaborations, Thrive Alliance, and Bartholomew County Public Library. My name is Courtney Brown, and I'm the Southeast Regional Coordinator from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I'll be the host and question moderator today. Our presenters this morning are Sue Lamborn from Thrive Alliance and Sandy Allman, Bartholomew County Public Library. Just a couple of announcements. To register for other webinars or other trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library. For a full list of our current in-person training menu, please see our continuing education website. This session is about an hour, so you'll receive one LEU for this presentation. If you're watching an archived recording of this webinar, instructions on how to obtain your LEU are in the video's description on YouTube, or you can also find those instructions on the ISL's continuing education site under LEU policies. So without further ado, I turn it over to Sue and Sandy. Okay, go ahead, Sue.
Okay, good morning. My name is Sue Lamborn, and I am from Thrive Alliance. We're going to cover a few things today in terms of our partnership with the library here in Bartholomew County, which is in South Central Indiana. We are the Area on Aging, and Sandy, who will be also doing some talking on the slides, is the outreach coordinator librarian for the county that one of the counties that we serve. Some of the things that we'll be talking about today are why awareness about dementia matters, what the disease is and what it isn't, statistics about people living with dementia in Indiana as well as throughout the United States. We also will be talking about some basics when it comes to dementia, and what our collaborations are between Thrive Alliance and Bartholomew County Public Library. Why awareness is important for anybody is that we are seeing quite an increase in the number of people that are living in their homes with dementia. And we know that many of these people do go to the local library. And so, a lot of the trainings that we do at Thrive Alliance are basic stigma busting in terms of people that live with dementia. But why this is important is, you'll want to understand why a patron that may come into the library may have a difficult time communicating with you. Why can't they hear you or understand what you're saying? Why is there a delay in questions that you may answer? Why do they delay in answering you? It's also, as I mentioned, to reduce the stigma surrounding people living with dementia. And also, we want to promote and decrease social isolation, and we want to increase civic engagement. And we also are firm believers that dementia can affect any of this. Another big important reason why awareness is important is that we want to work with people on creating environments that are dementia friendly so that people can continue to thrive. Some dementia basics. Dementia is a term that covers different types of dementias. The most common type and that we hear about a lot is Alzheimer's disease, and that's anywhere from about 60 to 80% of people with a dementia. That's their diagnoses. Alzheimer's is an irreversible dementia. It's something that maybe they can slow down the process of the disease, but it's not something that they can cure or prevent at this point. There are also some reversible types of dementia. People may present with dementia signs and symptoms, but it may be caused by some type of primary medical problem. They may have a urinary tract infection, which can cause people to be confused. They may have had a fall and a concussion that may have them lose some short-term or some long-term memory temporarily. But those dementia usually can be treated with under the care of a physician. So, as I said, dementia, if you take a look at, is the umbrella, but there are a few other types of dementias that also can occur. The first one that you'll see is Lewy body disease. And that's a type of dementia where it's sort of a Parkinson's and a dementia intertwined. People with Lewy body's disease may experience hallucinations. They will have an unsteady gait and be at a great risk for a fall. They'll shake and tremor with this diagnosis. Frontal temporal and vascular dementias usually have to do with having a stroke or oxygen and blood not being transported to that area of the brain, and it causes those types of dementia. Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome is often caused by people that are alcoholics, and it affects that part of the brain. They have some long-term alcohol and substance abuse issues that have gone on for several years, and the part of the brain which is called the Wernicke-Korsakoff part becomes impaired. So in early stages of any type of dementia, you're certainly going to see in one of the most profound things that you see is memory issues, where people may lose short-term memory. They may begin having conversations with you over again that they just had maybe 5 minutes ago. Um, there's also issues with thinking and judgment. People that maybe used to be able to balance their checking account very easily are not able to do that simple task anymore. And we also worry a great deal about scams with people that have a dementia and the robocalls that they may have and being swindled out of money, um, and being caught up into some type of scam in early stages. And then they also have difficulty in personality and mood, where they may have always been a pretty even keeled person, and they may become explosive or angry, or just agitated for types of things that usually had not agitated them in the past. One other typical issue that people have and symptom that they may have is word finding inability, where they just can't find the words that they're looking for. They may have to point to what they're talking about, and that type of thing, with early stages. Then when you get into the later stages of dementia, you can see it interfering with physical abilities. Um, and some of that can be due to some perceptual um, deterioration that goes on. They may have trouble walking. They may be at a fall risk. Um, they also will have a lot of toileting issues, as well as not wanting to engage in grooming issues. And this is usually a pretty big deal, the late stages, where people do not want to bathe. They don't want to brush their teeth. And if you think about it, there's a great deal, many of steps that go along with toileting and grooming, or activities of daily living. Eating so much as brushing one's teeth can seem like an overwhelming task for people that live with dementia, because there are a lot of steps that are included in brushing your teeth. They may also have swallowing issues, and many people will have to go on a liquid diet as a result of their swallowing inability. They may be at a choke risk, and have to go on a diet that a nutritionist will review with the caregiver, or with the professional caregiver that may come into the home. And then the big one that really is something that does impair the person quite a bit is perceptual ability. Now, if you take your hands and you do a scuba effect and you look through the scuba thing that you do with your hands, you need to look at what you cannot see. And what you cannot see is things outside of that. The peripheral vision sort of begins to deteriorate and go away. And basically, when you have scuba vision, you can see things in front of you. And that's why these initiatives are very important, is because we want to, work with programs such as our local libraries to make sure that they are dementia friendly. And that would have a lot to do with signage, utilizing universal symbols for restrooms, and making sure that they have a caregiver restroom or a caregiver plan for those toileting issues. The perceptual deterioration can come on very quickly, and nobody really understands, that they take the person to the eye doctor and they may have vision that's perfect, but that they are losing some perceptual vision. So dementia is not contagious, and it's not always noticeable. It's important to remember that people that are living with dementia still have a lot of strengths, interests, feelings, opinions, and most of all, they have rich histories. Um, Many people that are living with dementia do remember and want to hang on and do want to reminisce about their history and want to talk about where they've come from, the careers that they have, the children that they've raised. So these are part of looking at somebody with dementia and somebody who's living with dementia and helping them thrive in public spaces if they get a diagnosis of dementia. So I'm going to turn this over to Sandy, and she's going to go through the statistics.
Thank you, Sue. So statistics are a really important part of planning for a lot of companies, especially libraries and other nonprofits. So we do look to see what nationwide and state trends are. And for dementia and Alzheimer's, there are some really startling statistics that maybe a lot of people don't know. Almost 6 million people in America that are 65 or older are living with Alzheimer's disease. And that's not including an estimated 200,000 under the age of 65 that would be considered early onset. So there is a huge trend upwards in recognizing and diagnosing dementia in the United States. The numbers are rising. It could be up to 14 million by 2050. That's over twice of what it is right now. So that's just a huge percentage of our population that can be dealing with these health issues and cognitive decline. On a little bit of a lesser note, 1 out of 10 people age 45 and older report that they are experiencing subjective cognitive decline, SCD, and that would be maybe like the very beginning stages of dementia, or when you would be recognizing that something's not quite right. And nearly 1 out of 3 seniors that die every year has Alzheimer's or another type of dementia that Sue mentioned, vascular, frontal lobal, or Lewy bodies. So 1 out of 3 of people over 65 that are dying have some sort of dementia at this point. And that's just nationwide in the United States. We've got some statistics for Indiana as well. More locally, approximately 110 people are living with Alzheimer's. 110,000, sorry, that are living with Alzheimer's that are 65 and older. By 2025, that could be up to 130,000 people. And those are ages 65 and older. Like I said, that doesn't include early onset numbers. And Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death just in Indiana. So this is why the library wants to be very proactive in making sure that we are providing programs, being aware of dementia and other cognitive areas of decline because our population is aging. Go ahead, Sue.
So one of the first initiatives, maybe not one of the first, but certainly one that stands out, is an initiative called Dementia Friends Indiana. And this is an initiative that really busts the stigma when it comes to people living with dementia. And so I was given this initiative to take the lead on community-wide to begin to educate people on dementia and what were the signs and symptoms, how to communicate, how to identify, and how to reduce the stigma with people living with the disease, and finally, creating community environments. So one of the first places that I went was to first responders, because first responders mostly do have trainings in the state of Indiana. We do have what we call a code purple set up, that if that people can call the 911 dispatch and let them know that someone at their house is living with dementia, and they identify that as a house called, code purple, if there's ever a call or an ambulance that needs to go to that particular address. But I wanted first responders to become trained in how sometimes people with dementia process, but I mostly wanted to reduce the stigma. So I began talking to the library, and Sandy was the person that I spoke to. She's the outreach coordinator, librarian. She's the outreach librarian for this, because we had done some work with some of our older clients in terms of getting them library cards. We work with a over 60 population, and our goal is to have people remain in their homes, and we provide in-home services so that they can do so. But we also knew that a lot of people were going to libraries, and whenever I went to the meeting at the library, I did see a lot of people that were 60 and over that were getting services there. And, on a note, we were talking at the beginning when I first came in to talk with Courtney and Sandy about this, these initiatives, is that I didn't understand the importance of including the library and programming that we do until I started to speak with Sandy and saw that all that librarians and libraries do. And they affect every population and target from younger childhood into people that are aging. So we began doing the Dementia Friends Initiative, which begins to educate people and give them awareness of dementia and what dementia is, and to look at creating some community environments that are welcoming to people with dementia. So what we did with the library locally is that I came over and I did a training on the Dementia Friends Indiana initiative, and all the people that worked at the library, including maintenance people and security guards that were at the library, became what we know as a dementia friend. And the Dementia Friend Initiative is about a 45-minute short information session where people, like I said, we go over the signs and symptoms of dementia. We talk about communication techniques when working with somebody with dementia. Things like getting, eye level, talking to them and looking at them in the eye. Maybe some signage that they might be able to change at the library that were more at eye level when it came to restrooms and book placements and shelving. And now what we've moved on to about 3 years later, because it was pre-COVID when we put the Bartholomew Public Library through the training, is that Sandy has become what we call a dementia champion, and she offers monthly library trainings to conduct the Dementia Friends Indiana sessions.
One of the other library programs that I began offering, in addition to the Dementia Friends information sessions once a month, were virtual senior cafes. And this was in collaboration with our local DFI committee. including Sue and quite a few other people from other agencies here in Bartholomew County. And during COVID, we thought we wanted to make sure we had a way for seniors to connect. Libraries were shut down, other agencies were being shut down for in-person one-on-one sessions. So we thought this might be a good way to connect people across the board and do some fun activities. We did a little bit of research with what some other people were doing with memory cafes and decided to call ours a senior cafe to be a little bit more inclusive, so that it included anyone that wanted to attend. In addition to being aware of dementia, another thing that we think a lot about with our senior population is making sure that we are combating isolation. So we made it a little bit more inclusive. Some of the activities that we did on a biweekly basis, we're playing online games like Name That Tune, which I created using just iTunes music library and doing these things over Zoom and having people click in or raise their hand or do what, just shout out the answer. But we did Name That Tune. We did a version of Price is Right with our local grocery store, Kroger's prices here, which was really a lot of fun. Kind of a lot of work to set up. So, we did a basic template and then changed the prices and items a couple of times. We did bingo. Virtual bingo was a really big hit. Everybody loves bingo. And then I had some prizes left over from summer reading, primarily like free food coupons, free coffees, free ice cream, things like that we mailed out as prizes. And then we did a lot of different kinds of trivia. So we held this program for about, I want to say a year, maybe right under a year. We started out every 2 weeks doing this program and had a really good response. It tapered off to once a month. And then eventually we did realize that the attendance was waning considerably. So we did learn quite a few things from the senior virtual cafe experience. We learned, for one, that a lot of seniors did not know how to use Zoom and weren't able to learn it on their own. So we had sessions like Zoom 101s with leaders of some of the meal sites that Thrive Alliance sponsors in Bartholomew County and other surrounding counties. We had community members that wanted to be able to engage some people they knew. So we taught them how to use Zoom so that they could have a space of their own and help people who were not very savvy on how to partake in the virtual online program experience. We also learned that after several months, there was really a fatigue with online programs, and as the desire to connect with people in any way, even in an online format, as that kind of diminished, then we did eventually stop doing the program. We have had some people request to have it back, so that's something that we're considering in the future. But that was something, one of our first collaborations with Thrive Alliance and other area agencies like our senior center to get people involved during COVID. Another collaboration are our memory kits. This is a circulating item at the library that I coordinated with some help with our DFI committee, especially Sue at Thrive Alliance and some of our committee members that work for elder care agencies. Memory kits, pictured here, we started with 4, you can go to the next slide if you want to. Memory kits are a bag that contains activities with different themes. And each bag had at least 5 or 6 different activities in it. Each bag had a video of some kind and music of some kind. We also collaborated with Thrive Alliance, and they donated a music and memory kit, which we'll get to exactly what that is in just a little bit, because that's another program that Thrive Alliance sponsors. But it's basically an MP3 player that has pre-programmed music on it. And this is an old school MP3 player. You just, have a fast forward button, a select button. It's not, like an iPhone or an iPod Touch. And then we had a farm and pets kit. That kit contained a lifelike cat that is battery operated. Again, that was a collaboration with Thrive Alliance. They donated the cat to us, which is something that they loan out to some of their clients. The cat actually rolls on its back. It paws at the air. It meows. It's weighted. It looks real, and it looks like a real cat until you get very, very close up. And there are some funny stories about when Sue brought the cat in to me. She brought it in a plastic bag, and there was actually a staff member here at the library that thought she was bringing in a dead cat for me. So, but that's a very popular kit that is constantly circulating. We had jazz and musicals, so that had a lot of 30s, 40s, 50s era music in it, and little shakers and things like that. And then a gardening and nature kit had butterfly themed puzzles. It had a little rake and a little shovel, had gloves that someone could put on. So every kit had something tactile in it. So for that kit, it was the gloves. And those kits are a circulating item at the library that you can find in our catalog, and they circulate for 3 weeks, just like a book. We did put a replacement fee of $100 on each kit, and they're very popular. In fact, we've got some that are long overdue that we're going to have to try to get back or replace. And then we've got 3 more kits in progress that we're building.
So the next collaboration that we did was becoming certified in music and memory. And in this case, Thrive Alliance became certified in in-home music and memory services. And Sandy was one of the volunteers, actually, out of, I think there were 4 volunteers out of 20 people being trained in this certification process. This is, there again, musical kits that I was able to get a grant for. The music kits are quite pricey. They're $250 a piece, but I was able to get some local foundation money to purchase these kits. But we were taught how to build a playlist and to do an evaluation of the person that is living with dementia. And the evaluation process was nonverbal cues and verbal cues on the type of music that they wanted us to download on an MP3 player for them to listen to. This is not only a great program for the person living with dementia, but it's also a wonderful respite care giving type of a program, because the person that's listening to the music, it allows the person caring for them to get a timeout so that they can maybe do some self-care of their own. Once we get the playlist downloaded off of iTunes, then we deliver the memory kit to either the person at the library that we've met with or to the person's house. We have sheets made up with pictures on how to utilize the kit. Like as I said, it's got an MP3 player. It has a headphone set. Or for people that don't, want to use a headphone set, it does have a speaker that you can hook up to it. The outcomes that we're seeing within the population we're working with now are very impressive. People are reporting lessened anxiety, decreased in depression, and just an overall improvement in their mood. Then we also did, in conjunction with the library and Dementia Friends Indiana, we did dementia-friendly dining at a local restaurant. And through that, Sandy was able to do some outreach with some local people that were coming in and dining. But we were able to go in and train the staff on the Dementia Friendly Indiana initiative. Several people created what we called a Forget Me Not menu that was dementia friendly. We put pictures in the menu, and we downsized the menu at the restaurant. The restaurant's name was Amazing Joe's. Instead of having 50 things on the menu, we downsized it to 20 things on the menu. They were able to seat people living with dementia close to the kitchen. They lowered the music. They turned off the TV so that there wasn't quite so much stimulation. They served food on red plates instead of white plates because of the problem people may have with perception. If you serve them white potatoes on a white plate, they may not see them and they may not eat them as a result. So we did this before COVID, and then COVID hit, and it shut down like everybody else. This initiative, we are looking at getting this picked up again in the month of February, which is next month. We just need to go in, and Sandy and I and the Dementia Friendly Indiana Advisory Council that's local will go in and probably have to retrain staff because of the turnover that they've had with that. So the community outreach librarian is seated on several of the programs that Thrive Alliance offers. One that we've talked about is the Dementia Friendly Advisory Committee. She also sits on the Caregiver Advisory Committee. We do have a caregiver program that works with people that are unpaid caregivers, and we offer them resources to be used, and some support groups that they can go to, because being a caregiver with somebody with dementia is very difficult. What we find is that they get physically sick and worn down, and they also suffer from depression and anxiety and isolation because they don't go out and do what they used to do prior to caring for somebody with dementia. And we're also seeing that people that are caregivers for somebody living with dementia are more apt to die before the person they actually are giving the care to. And then a brand new initiative is Dementia Friendly America, which the library is going to go through this process, which involves a level 1 training on how to set your business up to be dementia friendly, is the first level. And then the second level is actually have a person that is on our advisory committee or action committee for this initiative, a person with dementia, do a walkthrough at the library with their caregiver with a checklist of things that they would recommend be changed. And then the library would need to make 80% of those changes, and then they would get the certification of being a dementia-friendly business. Okay. You're muted, Sandy.
Thank you. So some planned collaborations to continue in 2023 are the dementia-friendly business that Sue just mentioned. The library is very excited to become, further committed to this cause. Sue and I, through our agencies, have applied for grants for a dementia experience, which is a virtual reality simulation that we're hoping to be able to purchase. This is a goal for both of us, that we would like to collaborate on having these programs, like she mentioned, for first responders, any business, any civic club, things like that. The virtual reality simulation takes place in a room where individuals have on goggles that simulate the scuba view that Sue talked about. They wear gloves so that they can, and a special shoe to simulate neuropathy, and experiences like that where you can't necessarily feel things the same way. And it's just basically an experience that gives you those perceptual differences that someone with different types of dementia is experiencing. So we want to take that to the community in 2023. As for the library, we're increasing resources for caregivers. We are doing book displays. We have the memory care kits that we are expanding, and then we want to increase our programming. One example of that is to have a Sandy's Closet live on the library plaza. Sandy's Closet is a nonprofit that also was born out of one of our members in the Dementia Friendly Information Committee. She began the experience of shopping for people in memory care facilities. And basically what Sandy's Closet is a chance for folks with dementia to do a little bit of shopping with basically monopoly money. And what we have found, and what Jill, the founder of Sandy's Closet, found is that even though sometimes going out into the community to do things like shopping or go to stores is very stressful for the caregiver and also the person that has dementia, they still enjoy being stimulated and looking at pretty things or things that they enjoyed prior to having dementia. So there are a variety of items that they can purchase for free. Each person gets a certain amount of library or monopoly money, like $5, for example, and they can go through the tables and pick out things for themselves, things that catch their eye. We've done Christmas shopping experiences. I've volunteered with Jill for that. And it's just a really wonderful thing to see people go through and pick up a little music box or a pretty scarf or a John Deere hat or something like that, that just kind of speaks to them and invokes a good memory. So we have all of those things planned coming up for 2023. That's just the beginning. Sue and I are always collaborating and thinking of different things that we can bring to the community and use the platform of the library program in order to reach the entire population of Bartholomew County.
So one of the things that I thought was important for everybody to have, if they want to do partnerships such as we have with our local library, there is an elder care website where originally I thought this was just the state of Indiana, but then I saw people from Texas and West Virginia. This is a nationwide website, and every county in the United States has an area on aging agency. And if you put in the zip or the town, to this website. It will give you the name of who to contact if you, as the outreach librarian or the library, want to partner with your local area on aging. So you just click on that. You can put in the name of the town or the zip code, and it will come up with the contact information in regards to that. So that concludes our part of it. So we will open it up to any questions that people may have.
Great. Thank you so much, Sue and Sandy. This is wonderful. Someone is, oh, can you put the link here for that last slide on the website? Maybe if you could type that into the chat box there. If you have any questions, please put those in the chat box. We'll get those to Sue and Sandy. After the presentation has ended, probably later this week, I will send out the recording along with the slides and the LEU for this presentation. If you're watching an archived recording of this webinar, information on how to receive your LEU will be in the description on YouTube, or you can look it up on the LEU policies on the ISL's website. And then all of the information should be linked with the recording on our archived website. It looks like we have a couple of questions here. How often do you meet and how much time is needed?
Well, we meet now quarterly for Dementia Friends Indiana, and but in the beginning it was monthly over that. So I would guess initially the commitment between everybody on the committee probably was 90 minutes a month. Plus, if they became a champion to do the dementia information sessions, that was an additional hour, because everything with Dementia Friends Indiana, we have the PowerPoint and everything's just set up very easily. It's very user friendly. You know, I think on other initiatives, I think, you know, if I'm looking ahead to the dementia businesses, that may be a little bit more, because you have to go through and train the library staff, and 50% of the library staff has to be trained. And then you take the information from the training and you apply it to the physical environment. And that could be, you know, I'm anticipating that could be a little bit more. Sandy, you can add.
I think for me, monthly, I probably attend 1 to 2 meetings that are approximately an hour long, that are one of the committees that we mentioned. And then I spend an hour every month hosting a dementia information session.
We have a great comment. Some of these ideas could be helpful to other people who have memory issues, such as people with brain injuries. And then, do you have a link for the kits to purchase or recommendations?
I can provide you with a link to our website of the kits that we have, but I purchased those piece by piece. A lot of that came from the ALZ store, ALZ, the Alzheimer's store. Some items came from Amazon. Basically, what we did was we purchased a large clear tote bag that was a different color, but the same style as other kits that we had already created for our children's department, that our children's librarians had created. And so we used that same size. We went with purple because that's a color associated with the Alzheimer's Association. And then each item that we put in the bag was listed on a content sheet that we included. You can put whatever you want in there. Ours had 5 or 6 items, so it wasn't too much to keep track of, but it was all listed. And then we had some local caregiver resource sheets that they could keep. that were included with that. I would recommend putting something to watch and something to listen to and something tactile in each kit. And for me, having a theme to build around was key. The 4 that I mentioned, 2 were music, 1 was nature, 1 was animals. I've got 1 that I'm working on that is sports themed with a lot of baseball memorabilia and artifacts. We've got an Americana one that we're working on that has like military themed things, flags, things like that. Marching type of music, Sousa and things like that. So, and we also included a feedback card so that people could give us feedback if there was something else that they wish to have in a kit. We didn't actually have anybody provide feedback on the card, but we had a lot of people tell us that they really enjoyed being able to take a kit home, figure out what they liked from it, or just even have a rotation of different activities that they could do at home. We also had people at a local facility checked one out and used it with a group of individuals. So having a game or something that several people can do would be a good idea.
Great. For those of us who need to convince our director to have more items that circulate, so memory kits in this case, what would you say the goal was for the memory kits, aside from creating fun and potentially informational resources for people with dementia?
Well, the goal is definitely to be inclusive to the entire population that you serve. With an aging community and so many people having some sort of cognitive decline and people staying in their homes, more of our populations that we are serving need items like this. And I would say that the trend for libraries in general, especially in Indiana, that I've noticed is to have a lot of items that are not traditional books or CDs or music or things like that, but that are more of a library of things item. I know here at Bartholomew County Public Library, the memory kits are just a small piece of our library of things that we're offering now. We have board games. We have role-playing kits, we have albums, we have vinyl albums, we have record players, we have kitchen equipment, sewing machines, drills. So it's really just more a part of meeting people where they are, listening to the kind of things that they want, especially purchasing things that they cannot afford, or giving them the opportunity to try something before they invest money in it, I think is really key for serving our library populations.
We have lots of thank yous and great resources, and thank you so much for the info. Cindy did say she put 2 memory kits together for her patrons and they have loved them. Sue put that link to the ALZ store in the chat box. So if you're interested in that, it is there. And then Kelly says, I'm on your website. What terms should I use to search for your kits?
It should be memory kit.
Great. If you have any more questions, please go ahead and stick those in the chat box. Lisa, we can go ahead and stop the recording.
And anyone that would like to contact me directly with questions for memory kits or other library programs that we have done in collaboration with